2026 is going to be an awesome year. We got some pretty cool stuff coming up. First off, we got Foundations of Recovery. This is our flagship program. We're starting it in January.
This is for anyone, man, woman, or couple who wants to come and reclaim their heart from shame, trauma, and betrayal. We start off with an education on all sorts of principles, give you the common language. We feed you from a fire hose in terms of all things recovery.
It is such a great start to recovery. And we get at the roots of things, Tyler. This isn't like any other program. Like, this is our healing journey in process, and Foundations is where we begin.
If you look at the value that you're getting there to kick off a good recovery with all of the right education, all of the right language, and a team to get you started while also being directed by Brandon and myself through the whole process, what a deal.
So if you're interested, if you're struggling, if you've been wanting to do something for a long time, jump into this. This only comes around every so often, and we would love to have you there.
Click the link in the description to sign up for it. And to make it even sweeter, we're also including a raffle for a free pass to the Radiant Dawn retreat. Anyone who signs up for Foundations will be added to the raffle for that free Radiant Dawn pass. If you're a man and you sign up for Foundations, your name still gets entered, and you can give that pass away if you win it to any woman that you want to.
So what you're saying, Tyler, is if you sign up and participate in Foundations, you could possibly go to Radiant Dawn for free?
That's exactly what I'm saying, which is crazy because Foundations by itself is already an insane value.
Man, I sound so salesy. But it actually is awesome. So come to Foundations. And even if you don't come to Foundations, sign up for Radiant Dawn. It's beyond therapy, the best healing experiences that you can have.
Click the link below and come join us. How do I live in reality when I've spent my whole life trying to avoid it?
Welcome to the Real Talk Recovery Podcast with the Therapy Brothers. We're brothers, we're therapists, and we know recovery.
Bring your stories, your questions, your successes with real recovery. How do I live in reality when I've spent my whole life trying to avoid it?
All right. We'll get to that question in a second, but first we have a review. And it's from Because She Can. And it says, shout out to Renee. You're a brave woman to share your story. Wish I could hug you. Thank you for your courage. And they're talking about the Limbo Land episode, by the way. It says, momentum in my life is hard and messy too. Parts in this episode were hard to hear because I too struggle with a similar limbo story. The here and now, the reality of one situation is not an easy thing to accept at the moment. One thing I've learned is pain and struggle is a good motivator for change. Healing myself is key, and I appreciate this podcast so much. This podcast is making a difference and touching lives. Big thank you to both Brandon and Tyler.
That's awesome. It seemed like that episode, Brandon, got a few people thinking. We got quite a few reviews from that one.
Yeah, I really appreciate somebody acknowledging someone else's courage to come on and share their story and ask questions in a public forum like this. And it's awesome to say thank you to Renee, because Renee was courageous, and to have somebody else say, hey, like to take a few minutes out of their day to say, I'm going to hop on and actually try to make contact and let her know how courageous she is. It's really nice. That's really nice of them.
Yeah, that's awesome. And it also helps, I think it helps us too. You know, Brandon, I got a different one that was sent privately to me this week. It was just expressing some concerns about some of our episodes. And I appreciated that listener was willing to go out of their way and to constructively share their feelings with us, so we can maybe have them on the show, or we can bring up a new topic, or we can think about things differently. So you guys' feedback really does mean a lot to us.
Well, I think too, Tyler, our topic is very triggering and very vulnerable. And so we're going to say some things that some people really don't like. And then we're going to say some things that some people are so grateful that we're willing to talk about and say. And the reality is we want the feedback on both sides of it, and not just feedback, not just emails, but we'd also love to have discussion. Like if there's parts of recovery that we talk about that you totally disagree with, we want you as a guest. We would love to talk through those things, because this is how we sort it out. This is how we figure out what's actually working, what's actually healing. And so yeah, I do too appreciate both and all feedback, both sides of the feedback. All right.
Yeah,
So
it's awesome. It's just awesome to have people be engaged. So let's get rolling.
talk about people being engaged. We got David with us today, and this is actually David's second time recording with us. The first time we had some audio issues, so he's been kind enough to sacrifice even more of his time to come on and to talk with us. So, David, welcome to the show.
Hey, thanks, guys. I appreciate you taking the time to give me another shot at it. Hopefully, no audio issues this time around.
Awesome. All right, so David, again, will you kind of tell us your story just a little bit of background, and then ask questions.
Yeah. So to start at the beginning of it, at a really, really early age, I found myself with a heavy addiction to video games. When I was young, my parents would tell this story with pride that when I was 2 years old, they handed me a controller. My dad played a lot too. And they looked down at me and they're like, and it wasn't plugged in. And they said, it looks like he knows what he's doing. And they plugged it in. Sure enough, I was off to the races from the age of 2. And I mean, most of my childhood, most of my life, I always felt disconnected. I had some hard times in life where my parents completely did disconnect and they were gone, and video games were there. And sure enough, with video games at a pretty early age, I was, my family had talked, my dad especially talked a lot about pornography, masturbation. So naturally, I found those things at a young age as well. And I spent my whole life I plugged into that. Reality was never where I wanted to be. I always just wanted to be escaped into this fantasy where I felt, I felt powerful, I felt strong, I felt validated, I felt community, I felt all these things. And I spent my whole life doing that. And even in the relationships, I didn't engage. And a little over about a year and a half ago now, I felt, God's Holy Spirit really worked on my heart to begin engaging that part of my story with my wife, who was sharing the gospel with me in a really real way. And I confessed to her a whole lot. And I didn't do it in the best way. I didn't get the help I needed to get. I trickled it out. I still hid. I couldn't come through and just share everything. And even after, a bunch of sobriety, I was sober for 8 months, and I still was locked into shame. I didn't know how to get away from the shame and lie that I just was bad and I had made too many mistakes, and that reality wasn't where I wanted to be. And I said some harmful things to my wife, even sharing how I didn't know if her body would be enough for me sexually, because I had been so just in this world of fantasy, of fake. And I'm talking fantasy from pornography itself is obviously not real, but even you go into some of the more fantastical things that are out there in pornography with anime and things like that. And I spent my whole life in that. So as I'm engaging in reality now, I know I have a good life. I have so many good things. It's still been a challenge to say, how do I enjoy this and acknowledge that that stuff is not real? And I never actually did any of that. But to my brain and my mind, after years of it, the brainwashing, it's been hard to separate that.
David, this is an awesome question. I think this is a real challenge for a lot of men that we work with that are in recovery. And when they kind of start to take away the ways that they've been acting out in their life, it's like there's this void that opens up that needs to be filled with something else. When you turn around and look at what you're going to try to fill it with and call it real life, a lot of times that doesn't really look that attractive. It doesn't look healing as the place that I've been going to try to cope with life. And so it makes total sense that you're feeling that way. And it's almost like you ride this, it's almost like a depression that you can drop into and kind of feel like, geez, why would I want to take away the things that I've actually really enjoyed my whole life? Excuse me.
Um, so why would you? Why would you want to take away the porn, the video games? What's this is a stupid question, I know, but what's the problem?
Yeah. Well, I honestly think about how much of my life I've missed out of actually being a part of, being present. So many of these things I look back at my experiences as a child, and so many of them have to do with video games. And even I was telling my wife a story recently about, how I'm coming to this realization that the fantasy isn't real, and how these moments that felt so epic to me, when I stepped back, I was sitting at a computer chair, staring at a screen. I wasn't experiencing God's real beauty of this world. So I'd say it's fake. It's numbing. It's easy in a lot of ways to just be able to numb myself in that way. But because of that, I've also numbed myself from the beautiful things in life. So
Yeah.
it's a facade.
Have David, do you know what Wim Hof is? Do you know who Wim Hof is?
I don't know. I think I've heard Tyler talk about it before.
So it's this thing where you do these breathing exercises, and you jump in freezing cold water, and you actually breathe through it, and you sit in it, and you allow your body to kind of go through a process, and you feel all of the panic, you feel the tingles, you feel the calm of sitting in that cold water, and then you feel this kind of excitement of your like your endorphins release, and you feel all of the feels because you're in freezing cold water. So like for example, last week I jumped in a river up in the mountains, and it's October, so that water's not like a hot tub. And but here's the thing: what in the world? Why would anybody in their right mind do that? And it's kind of an analogy for life a little bit. Brené Brown's famous quote: "You can't selectively numb your emotions. You can't selectively numb your life."
Yeah.
And there's kind of a choice that we get to make, and I think we're all making it in some ways, and we're all numbing in some ways. But am I going to escape life and numb, and so that I can survive my way through this painful, miserable existence, or am I going to live? Am I going to embrace life and step into it and allow myself to feel all of the feels, the heartbreaks, the sadness, the anger, the exuberance, the happiness? Like, am I going to allow myself to feel all of those things? And it's amazing the industries that have been built to make an easy fix to be able to be like, I'm out, like escape, like boom, 2 years old, you got a controller in your hand. Pornography is like in everyone's pocket right now. They just pull it out, it's on their phone, boom, automatic, right? And because so many people, and me included in many ways in my life, so many people want to hit that escape button because life can be so painful.
I think that's one of the things that people don't like to hear in the line of work that we're in. And I always tell my clients this after they've been in treatment for a while. I say, we usually don't tell you this on the first day of treatment, but more than half of recovery work isn't about just being happy all the time. Half of recovery work is actually learning to live life on its terms, which includes pain tolerance. It's actually training ourselves to not only accept that pain is going to be part of life, but to actually embrace life that includes pain, because pain is inevitable and it's a teacher.
Yep.
And that's a hard thing for us to wrap our heads around, because we live in a culture that preaches that anytime you have any kind of pain, there's always a trap drawer to drop through, whether that's pornography, drugs, alcohol, television, video games. It's there at your instant fingertips. And those industries that Brandon talked about are so good at understanding us, in some ways better than we understand ourselves, that it's really easy just to kind of find ourselves in that checked out place, and even craving the checkout instead of the check-in.
David, to just kind of come back to you and your question here, this, if you were from a very young age conditioned to numb pain and to avoid pain, I hate to tell you this, but what you need to learn how to do is to tolerate pain. And so I'm not saying to do any kind of self-harm. But what I am saying is like Tyler, I don't know for you, for a while there, one of the main things I would prescribe to the guys struggling with addiction is a pretty regimented exercise schedule, where I would want them to do some jogging, and then there's a reason for it. That exercise is actual choosing into pain tolerance, knowing that I can do this hard thing, I can step into this, I can feel this. Tyler, do you do anything like that with your clients?
Yeah, we do all the time, and we know that exercise is one of those places. It's funny, Brandon. We finished the Rising Sun conference a few weeks ago, and as a result of that Rising Sun conference, we've been in touch with some of the guys. And one of the guys was just made a comment this week. He's saying, "Man, my life feels flat. I can't stay committed to things. I'm not being able to do my dailies the way that I want to, and I don't know why I don't have any like motivation in my life." And then he said, but what occurred to me is that I came alive during the conference. And what I'm actually now having dawn on me is that the conference brought me to life, not because we just did like fun stuff the whole time, but because every single day those guys made me do something hard.
Yeah.
And he said, I've got to figure out how to do something hard every day in order to get my heart open, to get my motivation up. And so he made a new commitment to say, it doesn't matter what it is, physical exercise or something that I don't want to do, get up early or go jump in a thing of water like you and I do.
It could be something like, hey, I could watch TV tonight, or I can go have a conversation with my wife that's hard, or I could just try to listen. Like, it could be something like that as well.
It could be as simple as the nightly routine that most of us have, which is get home from work, try to get our kids in bed as soon as we can so we can have an hour and a half or 2 hours to numb out watching something on TV, and setting a new bottom line that says, I don't watch TV at night.
Get to Ted Lasso as fast as you possibly can.
Right. But to pick one of those things and then to actually do it for the sake of your own heart,
Interesting.
And that's a hard thing to do. And it's a hard concept to wrap your head around, especially like David. Honestly, at 2 years old, your parents didn't think, well, let's just teach him how to numb out from life at 2 years old. But the byproduct has been all of those things that you described earlier, right?
No.
Yeah. And I mean, just to talk to that point, avoiding pain, that's been, the biggest motivation I've had my whole life is avoiding pain. Even after confessing to my wife everything I'd done and cutting it out. Sobriety, there were challenges, but sobriety wasn't the hard thing to find in all this. I know everybody's story is different, and I don't mean to trivialize that, but for me, it was walking into the mess I had created.
Mm-hmm.
My wife, she's been a trooper and she's fought really hard and done a lot of her own work from pretty much day one, where I confessed and thought, I did my part. We'll move on. Everything will be good. And every time we had issues, I couldn't perform sexually. I'd get anxious. I'd been used to this arousal I got from porn. And she's like, hey, look, I think you have porn-induced erectile dysfunction. You're not turned on by me the way that you should. It's just, I couldn't own that. I was just like, no, it's something else. And I kept making excuses because I wanted to avoid the pain. And eventually, like I'm sure you guys know, things do come to the surface. And eventually, as she kept getting healthier, as she kept doing work to get strong, and she felt we were moving in the right direction, I couldn't get there because I was filled with shame. I hadn't walked into the pain. So eventually I told her, like, I'm anxious that your body won't be enough for me, which it crippled, like it hurt her in such a way, because that was the message she'd been fighting against this whole time. And so yeah, avoiding the pain hasn't helped. And I think about if I had walked into that pain from day one, how things could look differently. And so I think for those who struggle with addiction, you can convince yourself it's the kinder thing to avoid the pain, especially when you've hurt your spouse so much already. And I realized that brings up more pain eventually if you don't deal with it right away.
Well, yeah. So, okay, I want to ask you a question.
Sure.
really quick. So my son, we had to quarantine for COVID, so he was at home, not going to school. And every day I'd come home from work and say, "Hey, did you get your work done? Did you get your schoolwork done?" And he'd say, "Yeah, I did." And then he'd go play with his friends or watch TV or whatever. And I went to parent teacher conference a couple days ago, and he had like straight Fs. And and his teacher's like, he didn't do a darn thing while he was in quarantine. Like he did nothing. And so she hands me this stack, and it's this giant stack of papers that he was supposed to have done, and none of them were done. And so just like on Saturday, he's sitting at this table with this giant stack of papers in front of him. And I gave him the analogy. I said, hey, when you avoid things and you lie and you say that you're getting things done, all of a sudden one day you're gonna wake up with a giant stack of papers. And how does it feel? You're overwhelmed. Like you feel like, what do you do now? But I want to take it one step further, David, and ask you, what should my son do? Like now he's overwhelmed. There's this big mess that's been created because of his lies, because of his avoidance, because of all this stuff. Where does he go from there?
I mean, as a child who did that as well, I can relate to that. But in all honesty, I mean, like you do it one page at a time. He takes that first page off the top and he starts working through it. And it's easy to lose yourself in feeling overwhelmed, but just take one step at a time.
That's spot on. So, okay, so relate this to your life. If you're, so to speak, our metaphoric pages here, give me some specifics of a page that you can do right now. Now that the mess is there, and you've already done some pages, David, you're still doing pages right now, but what's something right now that you can pick up and start dealing with?
Yeah, so I've avoided for a long time dealing with a lot of the wounds I've had from my childhood, my parental things that I've felt that have really led to a lot of where I am today. And for a long time, I've avoided walking into that. I still feel numb to it. I think about my story as a child, and I look back, and even self-compassion are not things I do well. But I think stepping into that story and just engaging that, or acknowledging that, yeah, there was harm done. Like a lot of what I've done has come from, it didn't happen out of nowhere. And to be able to first acknowledge that harm and then step into it, talk to my parents and say, hey, look, these are things that have affected me in certain ways, and not because I expect them to acknowledge even or to make it better, but just for my own heart and for the wounds I have, to begin to heal those things, because that's how I can show up different in my marriage. It's how I can do so many things differently. But I've been running from those childhood wounds for a long time.
Yeah, I love it.
Yeah, David, I love that too, man. You're actually, I can hear it in your tone. I can hear that Brandon and I are always looking in our clients for something that's, we would call an emotionally corrective experience, and the heart shifting. And I can hear in your tone, even the way you're talking, that you've had some shifting of heart since you started your process of recovery. And part of that shift is leaning further and further into the places that you're talking about, that reality with your wife, of the actual having to acknowledge, man, maybe I've done some things to my brain, even if I didn't mean to, that are going to make this process hard and messy for us. Mm-hmm. Maybe I am going to have to go and have a conversation with my parents, not so that I can blame them, but because I need to actually acknowledge that in myself, and I need to validate that those things are real for me. All of that stuff is spot on true. The other part that Brandon was getting at here is, and I think you answered the question, is you do it a page at a time, but most people won't start to do that a page at a time. If Brandon's son comes home from school now with that big stack of papers, and he's already feeling completely overwhelmed, and he's never taught himself how to manage his own emotions, the place where he's going to want to instantly go is right back to the place that got him in the trouble in the first place. He's going to go back to his video games. He's going to go back to like lying to his dad about whether or not he's doing the papers. And so not only do you have to start doing things a page at a time, you have to change things in your life that facilitate having to stare at that stack of pages and pick one up and start working on it.
That's a good point. That's a good point, Tyler. Like, my son has a very quiet table, a place where his siblings won't bother him. He also has me there supporting him, and I'm not shaming him. I'm saying, you can do this. We got this. Let's take. I told him, let's take 4 a day. You can do 4 a day. And so he has assets around him, and has shifted his life so that he can manage this stuff. And this analogy works perfectly. I mean, David, you're talking about when I said what's a page, you jumped to the page with calculus on it. It's like the trauma of my parents. You also jump to the roots of it, the deepest, darkest pains, which I think is awesome.
I do too.
But now it's also, okay, I want to do that page, but I don't know how. Like, where do I begin? And maybe you do know how, David. Maybe you're already doing some of that work. It might be having boundaries with your parents. It might be doing EMDR or ART, or really delving into those wounds and dealing with it. And that's where getting some different inputs and some different resources in your life can help you to step through those things and face that reality.
Yeah. I don't want to make it sound like I know what I'm doing. I don't. I'm still figuring this out, one really sloppy step at a time. And I will say, like, just because something that impacted me that I want to share for others who might find themselves in a similar struggle is, even just, I think it was about a month ago now, but a few weeks back, let's say, I was talking to my wife, and I've been so detached from reality. My wife is a beautiful woman, and she exercises every day. I mean, there's so many things about her that from the outside, she's beautiful. And I went to compliment her, and in my mind, I was like, I complimented how soft she was. And, she, not the thing that she wanted to hear. But she actually asked me about a day later. She's like, what were you comparing me to? And that question honestly broke something in me, because I realized, I'm like, what was I comparing her to? I have this real life woman who I can touch and feel. And that's the thing that got me. I was comparing her feeling to what? I never felt anything else. Like, all those things I looked at on a screen, like, I never felt any of that. But yet my mind was so tricked. And that's kind of what got me to the place of acknowledging, like, my mind has gone so far away from reality, from these beautiful things. I need to start at the beginning, and I need to heal the wounds that got me to this place where I thought I believed a lie that fantasy was ultimate, and come to realize that it is completely a lie, that there is much more beauty in real life. And I tried to avoid those initial wounds as much as I could, and probably because of the pain there. And yeah, recovery, I think you guys have said this before, like, the deception of compliance, I think it is, or something like that.
Mm-hmm.
And for a long time, I've just been trying to do the right stuff, to look like I'm doing the right stuff. And I mean, if the foundation isn't fixed, you can't build the house. I mean, it's that simple. So
Absolutely.
Dave, before you jump in, B, let me just mention something. I want our listeners to hear a point of what David just explained here, because this is a pinch point for a lot of people in this place of like no man's land when they start to look at reality. When your wife asked you that question, David, and she said, compared to what? I imagine that you found yourself at a crossroads, and you were either going to go deep into shame over that, and you're going to be like, oh yeah, I'm such a tool. Like, I can't believe that I did these things. And the truth is that, yeah, I don't even know what I'm comparing to. I'm comparing, I'm a bad person. I'm horrible. And that shame's going to lead you down the road right back into the place where you want to check out. Or you pick the different road, which is what you did just right now. And you said, yeah, that's true. Like, that's something I need to look at. And I'm going to have to go into those places and unravel some of that stuff and figure that stuff out. And that takes that accountability, that integrity takes courage to step into those places and look at those things instead of just giving into the shame that you're used to living in.
Mm-hmm.
yeah, the shame, I mean, I'd say more than the addictions themselves, video games, pornography, all that acting out, I found how addicted I have been to shame. I cut those things out almost a year and a half ago, and the shame has been, I mean, obsessively thinking on shame for so long. And I realized and I've been told this so many times, that the shame will be the thing that takes me out, destroy my marriage, it'll kill everything. And yeah, I've decided that the shame is a liar. I mean, that's all it is. It's the shame will always try to kill, steal, and destroy. And that's not who I want to be. I'm not those things. I'm not even on my past mistakes, but it's really hard to remove myself from that voice when I start hearing it, because there's plenty of evidence to hear those remarks, that I'm a tool, I'm terrible, I did all these things. But living in that shame isn't gonna help those I care about. It's not gonna help me either.
It's funny that the reality of you not being horrible, it can be really scary too.
Yeah.
Yeah. I want to back up just a little bit, because I think this is an important point too, in talking about your wife and whether or not she's enough for you, her body is enough for you, and she's like you say, she's a real life woman, and the fact of the matter is it's really unfair, and it has nothing to do with her, but it's really cool. So, well, when I worked with alcoholics, if an alcoholic drinks too much and they drink and they drink and they drink, eventually they get to a point where their brain can't come back. Same with like someone using meth, where they feel so much for so long, eventually they can't feel pleasure anymore. But those are the extreme cases. Our brains are really cool in the way that they can heal. So, for example, I actually made it off of sugar for about 3 months. And have you ever eaten a grape after you've been off sugar for 3 months?
I don't think most of us have.
Oh my gosh, a grape! Like, oh, it's like amazing. And a grape, and you know what? A grape's a lot better food and a lot better for you than a peanut M&M. And you don't realize that until you sober up. I got to get off that sugar. I got to get away from all those dopamine hits, like cinnamon bears, chocolate covered cinnamon, like dopamine hits all day long. Like, take a break from that for a while, and the neuroplasticity of that brain comes back and says, whoa, like reality, like something healthy and good, that's really good. That tastes really good. And David, I promise you, even though if you started at 2 years old, numbing out your life and getting as much dopamine hits as you can get, I promise you, your brain has the ability to heal, to get to a place where your wife and your reality and your life that you have now will be vibrant and good, and you will see the beauty in it. But you've got to give yourself some time. Your brain needs a while to be done with the old stuff. So that sobriety, I know oftentimes I'm like, yeah, sobriety is not important. Sobriety is important. Sobriety is important for this reason, so that your brain can take a break and actually heal those neural pathways. Does that make sense?
No, that makes complete sense. And it's, I think, having been in addiction so long, it's the quick fix, the quick hits are what I've done my whole life. I mean, we've just talked about engaging and dwelling in hard and messy is hard. And I mean, yeah, I've been sober for over a year now, and I thought, if I made it to this point, everything would be golden. And just to find out that's the first step in a lot of ways. And now it's time to do the work, so I don't fall into those same ruts and actually understand how I got there. And yeah, I like that you use the word vibrant, because that's something that I've told my wife when I met her, like she was vibrant. And I've seen, like, as I've led as a husband in our house, as I escaped, as I checked out, her vibrancy dimmed. And
yeah, but her vibrancy actually didn't dim, right? Your ability to see it is what changed, and you know that, right?
yeah,
Yeah.
I like how you put that. Absolutely.
Well, and even earlier when you said, I'm worried that her body's not going to be enough for me, I would change that wording. I'd be very careful with that. I'm worried that I'm not able to to recognize that she's enough for me. You see how that's back on you?
Yeah.
Because I would not ever go to your wife and say, your body's not going to be enough for me. Because the fact of the matter is, the truth, the reality is, she is enough for you. Right? So just the way
Yeah.
you're thinking and your wording, I would be careful of.
No, I think you're spot on, because that's the whole thing. I was blame shifting and gaslighting this whole time. I didn't
Mhm.
want to own where I was at and my things at. The reason why I've been damaged is because of choices I made. And yeah, there's reasons for those choices, but I still made them. And I've thought a
Right.
certain way for a long time. And it shows in the distortion and how I've communicated to my wife, how I saw my wife, the things I've told her. It's none of that has to do with her.
Yes.
It wasn't her. It's been me. And it's been really hard to own that. And I'd say that's the biggest thing, is coming to that acknowledgement of how much damage you can do with just a computer screen, just a video game controller. We think it's not a big deal. We think it's normal in this world. Man, you can do some damage. And I've seen that it lasts.
We're sent.
I
Oh,
was-
Tyler, go please.
Go ahead. I was out of town this last weekend, and I was in a hotel for a few days. We went down to watch my daughter do some running. Both of my daughters did some running. And in that time in the hotel, my wife and I were watching just some different things on television at nighttime. And there was one particular advertisement that just kept coming on over and over again. It was an advertisement for a really popular video game, a mature video game. So, the average console owner, I think these days is about 34 years old. And it was basically, you get to go in, and it was showing how you get to go in and become just this amazing, hero of whatever story it is that you're trying to portray. And that controller that you picked up as a 2-year-old started to teach you that you could go and you could find a place from anything. And now all of a sudden, as a grown man, you're stepping into a world with real people around you, with a real wife who loves you. And you're looking around at the story and going, man, I want to disappear to where it's easier for me to be the man than to actually step in to being the man in my own life. And I love to hear that you're taking that challenge right now, David. Like, I hear that there's some struggles. I hear that you're going, wow, there's some pain here, and I'm trying to unravel this a little bit at a time. But I love that you're willing to take that path. It's a path that most men who are addicted strongly to these kinds of things don't even want to consider taking, because they can't fathom a life without their drug of choice. And so it's really impressive that you're doing what you're doing.
I think it's hard to, I mean, here's the tricky part is, on one hand, I'm saying, don't blame your wife. Don't make excuses. Don't gaslight. Don't do those type of things. And on the other hand, we're talking about the shame, and we're saying, don't wallow in the shame, and don't, and so it's this weird thing of like, okay, like, I don't want to say what a bad guy I am, but at the same time, I do need to acknowledge the consequences of my behaviors. And there's this really awesome sweet spot of accountability, and accountability is key to recovery. Of, I can own what I've done, I can own what is, and I can apply some grace to myself, apply some real compassion from where I've come from as a child, and realize that yes, I've made choices. These things are real. The pain is real, and I'm still okay. I'm still lovable. And when you get to that place, then you can get out of the addict behavior. You can get out of the lying, the deceit, the dishonesty, and all those things, and you really start to move forward. You're facing reality, so now you can move forward.
Yeah, I'd say it is a hard balance to find. And it took me quite, and I don't want to say it like I figured it out, but I've realized now I can own my brokenness. I can own the mistakes I've made, but also acknowledge that I'm not without value and worth. Like,
Absolutely.
and it's really hard to get there. But I'd say I did that not through my not by myself, right? We're not an island. And the more I've isolated my whole life, the more withdrawn I felt, the more shame had control over me, as it was the only voice that I could listen to. And I've invited people, especially experienced people that know what my wife and I are going through, um, to have that encouragement, to have that community has been, I mean, it's essential. I don't believe you can do this alone.
It's awesome to hear that shift taking place, and that you're identifying really those parts of recovery where there's that middle ground of accountability and taking ownership without the shame. And being shame resilient is by doing what you're doing. It's sharing your story, it's reaching out to other people, it's going out when you want to go in. It's doing those things that allow you to continue to walk on the path instead of disappearing and checking out. And you're in that right now. David, go ahead, Brandon.
I was just gonna say, if Tyler was acting like a total jerk, right? Like, let's say he was destroying his marriage and just doing stuff that he was just destroying his marriage, and I would, David, what do you think I would do?
I mean, I don't think it'd be pretty. I think you get over there and
Thank
put him in
you.
shape.
I would kick his ass. But he knows I love him so much. Like, he knows I do, like, so much, right? And because of that, like, I'm gonna fight for him hard. Like, if I see him destroying himself. And so when we talk about facing reality, when somebody's in denial, one of the best ways to get out of denial is to be humble enough to have people in your life that love you enough to be honest with you. And that's what you just described. I mean, I love that. Is somebody who wants to live in denial won't hang on to good friends, because good friends are going to fight for them and be honest with them. And so I love how you're building that community. That's somebody who wants to commit to accountability and dealing with reality. So that's a huge asset for facing reality. So keep that up. That's awesome.
Brandon, I'm remembering, like, remember when we used to go to grandma's like every weekend as kids, and we'd always watch like those musicals that she'd play over and over again. And one of the musicals that she'd play over and over again was Seven Brides for Seven Brothers. Remember that show?
Oh yeah. I mean, you were like, we used to play this. You were like Gideon or someone.
No, I was,
since it just smelled so sweet.
Yeah. No, yeah, but like there's that part in the show though, Brandon, that or Adam, the oldest brother, he basically like gets in a fight with his wife, and he's totally at fault. He's totally prideful. He ends up going up to the trapping cabin, and what is the youngest brother, who is named Gideon, the youngest brother goes up to the trapping cabin and he says, "Hey, you're my oldest brother. You know I love you, but I wouldn't be any kind of a man if I didn't show you how I felt." And he punches him in the face. And,
yeah, that's like the extreme example.
but that's what you're describing to
absolutely
David, is to have the right kind of people in your life that you can afford to have them punch you in the face in a non-shaming way, and you go, yeah, dang, like
figuratively punch you in the face.
Yeah, I can do better. Like, I know I can live up to more. And I know that somebody else sees that in me, and there is some truth to that. So go ahead, David.
No, I like the imagery. Now I'm imagining Brennan punching you in the face, but outside of that,
hey, I'd take him easy. I mean, let's be honest.
I think that that's you can't be loved and accepted if you're not vulnerable, right? With your failures, with everything. And that's what I've seen. I had this picture buttoned up so well. Everybody thought I had it all together. I was, I knew how to say all the right things. I think, like many people that struggle with addiction, I know how to talk very well and how to get myself out of problems. And being able to have men in my life that I've come to and say, "Hey, this is what I've done. Like, look at this mess," and not be abandoned and be challenged and be encouraged and say, "Hey, you can do this. Like, you can get out of this." And there is no acceptance. There's no love without vulnerability. And being vulnerable even to share your faults, I think, is something that people struggling with addiction, they struggle with that as well, because it breaks away from that projected image. And I mean, that's masculinity in so many ways, is to be
Yes.
fighting. And the shame and that lie that I need to martyr myself over all my feelings, like that's not building trust. That's not helping my wife be her best self. Instead, as I step into real masculinity, she's going to thrive as well. So yeah, I think that's spot on. We can't live status quo.
Preach on, David. I love it.
Amen.
You know, you haven't arrived yet. None
No,
of us,
definitely not.
none of us here have, but you definitely got the underlying principles in place to thrive. And so stick to the process that you're sticking with. Be patient. Allow some time to work on that brain of yours. If you do slip up, if you fall back into some numbing, then just try to get right back on that wagon again. And before you know it, you'll realize, oh my gosh, like life is so much more vibrant. I am living in reality more, and I can tell a lot of good stuff is happening. So I just want to thank you for coming on and having the courage, Tyler.
Yeah, I just want to share one more thought. I know we're running out of time here, David. I want to first just reiterate that everything that you're describing and what you've been doing in the last year of your life is the hard way. Our lives, the normal way would be where you just came from a year ago, and you're doing everything a little bit differently. You're a man who's reaching out to other men. Most men don't do that. You're a man who's checking in instead of checking out through video games and other things. Most men don't do that. And I know that you're in kind of that messy part where you're not necessarily getting the results yet, but I believe what Brandon's saying is true. And it's making me think of this famous poem. And I know you've heard it before and everybody who's listening has heard it before, but I would like you.
We get a poem today.
We get a poem, Brandon. Yep.
Okay.
Lucky you.
I love it.
Lucky you.
I love it. Like Robert Frost busts it out. Like,
that's what we're doing. We're going to do some Robert Frost today. So,
hey, there you go. I nailed it.
Yeah, there you go. There you go. But I want David, I want you to listen to this, but I'd also like for our listeners to listen to this in the context of the topic we've been talking about today. And it's that famous poem, The Road Not Taken. It says, 2 roads diverged in a yellow wood, and sorry I could not travel both, and be one traveler. Long I stood, and looked down one as far as I could, to where it bent in the undergrowth. Then took the other just as fair, and having perhaps the better claim, because it was grassy and wanted wear, though as for that passing there, had worn them really about the same. And both that morning equally lay, in leaves no step had trodden black. Oh, I kept the first for another day, yet knowing how way leads on to way, I doubted if I should ever come back. And I shall be telling this with a sigh, somewhere ages and ages hence, 2 roads diverged in a wood, and I took the one less traveled by. And here's the key line, and that has made all the difference. David, you're making a difference, man. Like, you are taking the road less traveled. And I think ages and ages hence, if you'll continue to stay on the road you're on, you're going to look back and say, that made all the difference. So
all you need to do now, David, is run 20 miles up a mountain and jump in a cold lake. And then you've made it.
All right. I'll let you guys know when I've done that.
Thanks again. I really appreciate it. Any last words? Any last thing you want to say, David?
I appreciate you guys' time. I mean, you guys are doing amazing work for all those listening. And I mean, I think that's the reality is it's messy. It's hard. I've by no means arrived. I have so far to go. I'd say I'm in a lot of ways, it feels like I'm still at the starting line. But it's worth it. And checking out, yeah, it feels good for a moment, maybe, but checking in, it can feel good for a lifetime, I guess is what I'll say.
All right. Thank you, David. And thanks for listening, everybody. Have a wonderful day. We'll see ya.